Good morning, my friends. Most people think saving more and spending less is about deprivation. They picture a life of cutting out every pleasure, never enjoying what they earn. But I want you to see it differently. Saving is not about restriction. It's about freedom. It's about buying your future instead of just your present. Every dollar you save isn't just money, it's possibility, security, and choice. Today, we're going to uncover 7 principles that will transform your relationship with money and help you live with both discipline and joy. Knowing your why. For saving is the foundation for every other financial decision you will ever make. Without a powerful and personal reason behind your savings goals, every temptation to spend will seem justifiable, every impulse purchase will feel harmless, and every delay in starting will appear reasonable. But when you have a strong why, every choice becomes clearer because it's weighed against something that truly matters to you. Saving money is not about the numbers alone. It's about the life you're building, the security you're creating, and the opportunities you want to give yourself and those you love. I've met so many people who say they want to save more, but when I ask them why, their answers are vague. It's just good to save, or I know I should. That's not enough. Vague goals lead to vague actions. When the next sale pops up, or your friends invite you on a spontaneous trip, or the newest phone gets released, I should save won't hold up against the pull of instant gratification. But if your reason for saving is tied to something deep, your child's education, buying your first home, retiring early, starting your own business, then you have a concrete and emotional anchor that will keep you steady when temptations come. I remember working with a young couple who wanted to buy their first house. They were frustrated because they could never seem to save enough for a down payment. When we looked at their spending, I saw a lot of discretionary purchases, eating out several times a week, buying the latest tech gadgets, frequent weekend getaways. None of those things were bad in themselves, but they were stealing from their bigger goal. I asked them to sit down and describe, in detail, what owning a home meant to them. They started talking about having a safe place for their kids to grow up, a yard for playing, a kitchen for family dinners, and the pride of having something that was truly theirs. As they talked, their voices grew more animated, their eyes brighter. I told them to write down that vision and put it somewhere they'd see every day. The fridge, their wallets, the background on their phones. That why became their filter. Every time they considered spending money, they'd ask, is this worth pushing back our home? In less than 2 years, they had their down payment and the keys to their own place. Your why has to be personal. Saving because someone told you to, or because it seems smart, will never be as powerful as saving for something that makes your heart beat faster. The stronger your emotional connection, the easier it will be to say no in the moment. If your goal is to travel the world, visualize the destinations, the experiences, the feeling of freedom. If your goal is to be debt-free, picture the relief of opening your statements and seeing a zero balance, the freedom of not owing anyone. If your goal is to start a business, imagine the first day you walk into an office that's yours, or the moment you hand over your resignation letter because you've built something sustainable. Once you know your why, it becomes your compass. It directs your decisions and reminds you of what's at stake. Without it, every financial choice is made in isolation, disconnected from the bigger picture. With it, every choice is either moving you closer to your dream or pulling you further away. And you'll know the difference instantly. The process to find your why is simple but requires honesty. Sit down and write a list of what you truly want for your life in the next 5, 10, and 20 years. Be specific. Don't just write financial security. Write what that looks like for you. Is it owning your home outright? Is it being able to work less and spend more time with your family? Is it having the freedom to take 6 months off to travel or volunteer? Once you have your list, pick the top 3 goals that make you feel the most excited and committed. Those are your primary Wise. Keep those reasons visible. Put them in your wallet, on your phone, on your bathroom mirror. The more you see them, the more they'll influence your daily choices. And don't just keep them in words. Use visuals. If your goal is a home, find a photo of the type of home you want and keep it where you'll see it often. If it's travel, use pictures of your dream destinations. Your brain responds powerfully to visual reminders. Knowing your why won't make you immune to temptation, but it will make you stronger in the face of it. You'll stop seeing saving as a sacrifice and start seeing it as a trade. Every dollar saved is a step closer to what you truly want, and every unnecessary purchase is a step away. When you frame it that way, the choice becomes clear. If you don't define your why for saving, the world will define it for you, and it will usually be something that benefits others more than it benefits you. Decide today what your savings are for. Make it personal, make it powerful, and make it so compelling that it becomes your internal alarm, ringing every time you're about to make a choice that could delay your dreams. That's how you build the discipline to save more and spend less. Not by forcing yourself to say no, but by having a reason to say yes to your future. Tracking every dollar is one of the simplest yet most transformative habits you can develop if you want to save more and spend less. You cannot control what you do not measure, and you cannot improve what you do not track. Most people believe they have a general idea of where their money goes, but when they actually track every expense for a month, they're shocked by the reality. Money has a way of disappearing in small, unnoticed amounts. Coffee here, snacks there, subscriptions you forgot you signed up for. And those small leaks can quietly drain hundreds, even thousands over time. Awareness is the first step toward change, and tracking every dollar gives you that awareness in a way nothing else can. I once met a high-earning executive who was constantly stressed about money. He couldn't understand why, with such a large salary, he was still living paycheck to paycheck. He insisted he was pretty good with his spending and that his main expenses were necessary. When I suggested tracking every single expense for 30 days, no exceptions, he agreed reluctantly. By the end of that month, the numbers told a story he didn't expect. There were over 600 in restaurant meals, 200 in unused subscriptions, and a few hundred more in spontaneous purchases, like clothes he didn't need and gadgets that sat unopened in drawers. None of these purchases were intentional, they just happened one small swipe at a time. That 30-day experiment was a turning point for him. He cut unnecessary expenses, redirected the money towards savings, and within a year had built a substantial emergency fund for the first time in his life. The reason tracking is so powerful is because it makes your spending visible. As long as your money habits stay vague, it's easy to believe you're being responsible and that you deserve the little extras without considering their true impact. But when you write down or log every purchase, you create a moment of accountability. You see the pattern of where your money is going, and that awareness alone often prompts better decisions. Many people cut their spending by 10-20% without even trying, simply because tracking makes them think twice before spending. There are many ways to track your money, and you can choose what works best for you. Some people prefer old-fashioned pen and paper, keeping a small notebook with them and jotting down each purchase as it happens. Others use spreadsheets, which allow for easy organization and analysis at the end of the month. There are also dozens of budgeting apps that sync with your bank accounts and automatically categorize expenses. The method matters less than the consistency. The goal is to have a complete and honest record of where every dollar is going. When you start tracking, be prepared for some discomfort. You may not like what you see. You may realize you're spending far more on convenience than you thought, or that impulse buys are a bigger problem than you've admitted. That discomfort is a gift. It's the awareness you need to change. The key is not to beat yourself up, but to use the information to make intentional choices. If you see you're spending $150 a month on takeout, You can decide whether that's worth it or whether you'd rather cut it in half and save the difference. Tracking also helps you spot the silent killers of your budget. Those small recurring expenses that feel harmless individually but add up over time. That $7 streaming service you never use, the $4 bottle of water you buy daily instead of bringing your own, the gym membership you haven't touched in months. Individually, they seem insignificant, but over a year they can represent hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Once you identify them, you can either eliminate them or replace them with more cost-effective options. One important thing to remember is that tracking is not about restriction. It's about clarity. If you truly value something and want to spend on it, there's nothing wrong with that. But you should be making that choice consciously, knowing exactly what it costs you and what you might be giving up in exchange. Tracking ensures your spending aligns with your priorities instead of being driven by habit or impulse. To put this into action, commit to tracking every dollar for the next 30 days. Don't skip the small purchases. They often reveal the biggest opportunities for savings. At the end of the month, review your data. Identify the areas where your spending surprised you, where you can cut back without hurting your quality of life, and where you want to redirect that money, whether into savings, debt repayment, or a specific goal. Then keep tracking. The longer you do it, the more it becomes second nature, and the easier it becomes to make smart financial decisions. When you track every dollar, you take back control from the vague sense of, I think I'm doing okay, and replace it with concrete knowledge. That knowledge is power, the power to save more, spend less, and build a life you've chosen instead of one that's been decided by unconscious habits. It's not glamorous, but it's one of the most important steps you'll ever take toward financial freedom. Distinguishing wants from needs is one of the most important skills you can develop if you want to save more and spend less. Yet it's one of the most challenging because marketing, social pressure, and even our own emotions often blur the line. A need is something essential for your survival, health, and basic functioning. Food, shelter, clothing, transportation to work, essential utilities. A want is everything else, no matter how much it feels like you can't live without it. The trouble is that in today's consumer-driven culture, many wants are disguised as needs, and if you're not intentional, you can end up spending money as if every purchase is urgent and necessary. I remember talking with a college student who told me she needed a new laptop. Her old one, she said, was outdated and slow. When I asked what was wrong with it, she admitted it still worked fine for her assignments, research, and online classes. It just wasn't the latest model, and her friends all had sleeker, faster ones. The truth was, she didn't need a new laptop. She wanted one. There's nothing wrong with wanting something, but calling it a need gives you emotional permission to spend without thinking. By postponing that purchase and continuing to use her existing laptop, she was able to save enough money to fund a summer course abroad that became a life-changing experience. That's the power of distinguishing between wants and needs. You start making choices that reflect your true priorities. The danger of confusing wants with needs is that you end up making spending decisions on autopilot. You convince yourself that eating out 3 nights a week is a necessity because you're too busy to cook, or that buying brand new clothes every season is necessary to look professional, even though your wardrobe is already full of good options. Over time, this mindset eats away at your ability to save because you feel like every expense is justified. The first step in mastering this distinction is awareness. Before making any purchase, pause and ask yourself, do I need this to function, or do I just want it because it would be nice to have? This pause creates space for honesty. Sometimes you'll realize that you do, in fact, need the item. But other times you'll see that it's a want, and that realization gives you the power to make a deliberate choice instead of an emotional one. Another useful question is, if I didn't buy this, what would I lose? If the answer is minimal, if your life would go on unchanged, then it's probably a want. For example, needing groceries to make meals is essential, but needing a 6's specialty coffee every morning is not. You could still function with a coffee made at home for a fraction of the price. The 6's coffee is a want, and if you choose to buy it, it should be because you've decided it's worth the trade-off, not because you've convinced yourself it's non-negotiable. It's also helpful to remember that wants aren't bad. The goal is not to strip all joy and pleasure from your life. The goal is to control your wants so they don't control you. When you treat every desire as a need, your money disappears faster than you can earn it. But when you consciously choose which wants to indulge in and which to delay, you create room in your budget for savings, investments, and the goals that truly matter. One practical exercise is the 24-hour rule for wants. If you see something you want to buy, wait 24 hours before purchasing it. Often the desire fades once the impulse passes, and you realize you don't really want it as much as you thought. If after 24 hours you still want it, you can evaluate whether it fits into your budget and aligns with your priorities. This simple habit can save you from countless unnecessary purchases. Another strategy is to connect your wants versus needs decisions back to your bigger why for saving. When you're tempted to buy something you want, think about what you're trading for it. That 200 pair of shoes might mean delaying your debt-free date by a month. That 30,000 gadget might mean postponing your dream trip by a year. When you see the real cost in terms of your goals, it's easier to decide whether the want is worth it. The more you practice distinguishing wants from needs, the sharper your judgment becomes. You'll start noticing patterns in your spending and seeing through the marketing messages that try to convince you that you're incomplete without the latest product. You'll start taking pride in the times you choose to wait, save, or redirect your money towards something more meaningful. Over time, this skill doesn't just help you save. It changes your mindset. You stop feeling deprived when you pass on a want because you know you're saying yes to something bigger. You gain control over your money instead of letting your impulses or outside influences dictate your choices. And that control is one of the most powerful forms of financial freedom there is. Paying yourself first is one of the most important habits you can adopt if you truly want to save more and spend less. Yet it's also one of the most misunderstood. Most people operate on a save what's left system. They pay their bills, cover their expenses, enjoy their lifestyle, and then, if anything happens to be left over at the end of the month, they put it into savings. The problem is that there's almost never anything left over. Life has a way of filling whatever space you give it. If you leave saving for last, it will always get pushed aside by the next expense, the next desire, the next emergency. That's really just poor planning. Paying yourself first flips that entire equation. It means making your savings a priority before anything else. Treating it like a bill you owe to your future self. I once worked with a man who earned a solid income, but never seemed to make progress toward his financial goals. He told me, "I'll save when I get a raise," or "I'll save when the bills aren't so high." But each time his income went up, so did his spending. When I explained the concept of paying yourself first, he resisted at first, saying, "How can I save before I pay my bills? What if there's not enough left?" That's exactly the point. When you save first, you force yourself to live within what's left. I challenged him to set up an automatic transfer that moved 10% of his paycheck into savings the same day he got paid. At first, he worried it would feel tight, but within a couple of months, he had adjusted his spending without really noticing. A year later, he had thousands in savings for the first time in his life. The act of paying himself first changed everything, because it removed the question of whether he would save. He just did it automatically. The psychology behind this is powerful. When you pay yourself first, you shift from treating savings as optional to treating it as mandatory. It becomes a non-negotiable, just like your rent or mortgage, your utilities, or your loan payments. You stop asking, Can I afford to save this month? And start asking, how can I make the rest of my budget work after I've saved? That small shift in thinking has massive results over time. One of the easiest ways to implement this habit is through automation. Set up your bank account so that a percentage of every paycheck is automatically transferred into a separate savings or investment account before you even see it. This removes temptation and eliminates the chance of forgetting or deciding not to save. The money is gone from your spending account before you have the opportunity to use it on something else. Out of sight, out of mind, and into your future. You don't have to start big. If 10% feels impossible right now, start with 5% or even 2%. The key is consistency. Even small amounts add up over time, and as you adjust to living on slightly less, you can increase the percentage. The important part is to build the habit first. Once you're in the rhythm of saving before spending, increasing the amount will feel much easier. Some people worry that paying themselves first will make life feel restrictive, but in reality, it does the opposite. Knowing that you're consistently saving gives you peace of mind and a sense of progress. It allows you to enjoy your spending more because you're not constantly feeling guilty or worried about whether you're falling behind financially. It also builds confidence because you see your savings grow month after month, proof that you're taking care of your future. There's also a deeper principle at work here: self-respect. Paying yourself first sends a message that your future and your goals are important enough to come before anyone else's demands. It's an act of valuing yourself, of acknowledging that you have the right and the responsibility to take care of your own needs before meeting the wants of others. That mindset spills over into other areas of life, making you more intentional and more disciplined overall. If you've been stuck in a cycle of, "I'll save if there's anything left," now is the time to break it. Decide on a percentage of your income you will save and set it aside immediately when you're paid. Treat it as sacred, untouchable money. Don't borrow from it for daily expenses, and don't dip into it for impulse purchases. Let it be the foundation of your financial security. Over time, this habit will create not just savings, but options. Options to take opportunities, handle emergencies without debt, and ultimately design the life you want. Paying yourself first is more than a financial tactic. It's a commitment to your future self. It's saying, I believe my goals and my dreams are worth funding right now, not someday when it's convenient. Because here's the truth: someday never comes unless you make it happen. And the best way to make it happen is to start today. Before you pay a single bill, before you spend a single dollar, by investing in the most important person in your financial story, you. Cutting the silent killers of your budget is one of the quickest and most effective ways to free up money without feeling like you've dramatically changed your lifestyle. Silent killers are those small, recurring expenses that slip under the radar because they seem harmless on their own. They're the extra subscription you forgot you had, the frequent coffee runs, the takeout lunches, the special offers you grab without planning. Each one might be small enough that you barely notice it, but together, they quietly drain hundreds or even thousands of dollars from your budget every year. The danger is that, because they don't feel like big spending decisions, you rarely question them. And that's exactly why they can do so much damage. I once worked with a family who told me they had no room in their budget to save. They were convinced their expenses were all essential. I asked them to track their spending for a month and highlight anything that wasn't truly necessary. At first, they struggled to find anything worth cutting. But when we looked closely, the picture changed. They had 3 different streaming services, even though they mostly used one. A gym membership no one had used in 6 months. A weekly takeout habit that cost more than $400 a month. And a few free trials that had quietly turned into paid subscriptions. By cutting or reducing just those silent killers, they freed up $500 a month without touching their rent, utilities, or other true essentials. That's $6,000 in a year. simply by eliminating expenses they didn't even miss once they were gone. The first step in addressing these silent killers is awareness. Most people underestimate how much they spend in small amounts because the transactions feel insignificant. That's why tracking every dollar, as we discussed earlier, is so important. It reveals the leaks you can't see otherwise. Once you've identified them, the key is to decide which ones genuinely add value to your life and which ones are simply habits or convenience. Not all silent killers are obvious luxuries. Sometimes they hide in areas you think are fixed costs. For example, you might be overpaying for your phone plan, insurance, or internet because you've never shopped around for a better deal. You might be paying for features you don't use or sticking with a provider out of habit. Negotiating these bills or switching providers can save you a surprising amount without reducing your quality of life. Another common area is food. Many people underestimate how much they spend eating out or grabbing snacks on the go. The occasional restaurant meal isn't a problem, but if you're regularly buying lunch at work or grabbing coffee every morning, those costs add up quickly. Preparing meals at home, bringing lunch, or making coffee yourself can save hundreds over a month, and you can still choose to treat yourself occasionally without it being a default habit. Subscriptions are one of the biggest silent killers today because they're designed to be set and forget. Whether it's streaming platforms, apps, magazines, or services, the model relies on you forgetting to cancel or not bothering because the monthly cost seems small. But when you multiply those small amounts over a year, they become significant. One strategy is to review all subscriptions every 3 to 6 months. Cancel anything you're not actively using and question whether you truly need the rest. If you miss it enough, you can always resubscribe later. Cutting silent killers is not about living a life of total austerity. It's about being intentional. If you genuinely value your daily coffee from your favorite cafe and it brings you joy, keep it. But if you're buying it out of habit and could enjoy the same quality at home, redirect that money toward your bigger financial goals. The same goes for any recurring expense. If it aligns with your values and priorities, it stays. If not, it goes. The beauty of addressing silent killers is that it often feels painless. You're not giving up things you truly care about. You're removing the fluff you barely notice. Yet the impact on your budget can be dramatic. Imagine what you could do with an extra $200, $300, or $500 a month. You could boost your savings, pay off debt faster, invest for your future, or fund experiences you've been putting off. That's why cutting silent killers is one of the fastest ways to create financial breathing room without feeling deprived. To put this into action, review your last 1 to 3 months of expenses and highlight anything you either didn't use, didn't need, or could get more cheaply. Start with the easiest wins, the costs you can eliminate today without any negative impact on your life. Then tackle the areas where you can reduce rather than eliminate, like switching to a lower phone plan or cutting your dining out budget in half. Every dollar you save from these changes should go directly into savings or debt repayment, so it's not quietly absorbed into other spending. The silent killers in your budget are like weeds in a garden. If you don't notice them and pull them out, they spread and choke out the space for what you truly want to grow. By identifying and removing them, you create room for your financial goals to flourish. And once you've cleared them, you'll likely find that you don't miss them at all. But you'll definitely notice the difference in your bank account. Making saving a game is one of the most creative and enjoyable ways to build financial discipline because it transforms what can feel like a chore into something fun, motivating, and rewarding. Most people approach saving with a mindset of restriction. They think about what they can't have, what they have to give up, and how much less enjoyable life will be while they try to meet their goals. That perspective makes it hard to stay consistent. But when you treat saving as a game, you tap into your natural desire for challenge, progress, and reward. You stop seeing it as punishment and start seeing it as a competition, either with yourself or with others, where each win brings you closer to your goals. I once coached two friends who were both struggling to stick to their savings plans. They decided to turn it into a friendly competition. For 3 months. They would track the percentage of their income they saved. And at the end of each month, the person with the highest percentage would win bragging rights and a small prize paid for by the other. That small incentive, combined with the fun of competition, completely changed their approach. They began brainstorming creative ways to cut costs, finding cheaper alternatives, and celebrating small wins together. By the end of the challenge, both had saved far more than they ever had in the same time frame before. And the habit stuck long after the game officially ended. The beauty of gamifying saving is that it doesn't require huge changes to your lifestyle. You can design challenges that fit your goals and personality. For example, you might set a no-spend week where you only buy essentials and see how much you can set aside during that time. Or you could challenge yourself to beat your savings total from the previous month, treating it like a personal high score you want to surpass. You could even turn it into a family activity, encouraging everyone to find ways to cut costs and rewarding the most creative solution at the end of the month. Another popular game is the Round Up Challenge, where you round every purchase up to the nearest dollar or even $5 and transfer the difference into savings. This can be automated through certain bank accounts and apps, and it turns small amounts you wouldn't miss into meaningful savings over time. There's also the 52-week savings challenge, where you save $1 the first week, $2 the second, $3 the third, and so on until you're saving $52 in the final week. By the end of the year, you'll have one's $378 saved almost without noticing. The key to making saving a game is to give yourself clear rules, measurable progress, and rewards that keep you motivated. It doesn't have to be competitive with others. It can simply be a competition with yourself to see how resourceful you can be. For example, you might try to find a way to save $100 extra this month without feeling any deprivation. That could mean selling unused items, using coupons, meal prepping, or finding free entertainment instead of paid activities. Each time you find a new method, it feels like a win. Gamifying saving also shifts your mindset about money. Instead of feeling deprived when you skip a purchase, you feel proud that you made a smart move toward winning your game. Instead of resenting your budget, you start looking for ways to score points by saving more or spending less. This positive reinforcement builds momentum. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal finance. Once you start seeing your progress and feeling the excitement of meeting many challenges, you want to keep going. The social aspect of making saving a game can be especially powerful. If you have friends, family, or coworkers with similar goals, consider creating a group challenge. Share your progress, encourage each other, and celebrate together when milestones are reached. The shared accountability and encouragement make it harder to quit and more fun to keep going. Of course, the end goal isn't just to win the game. It's to make saving a natural, automatic part of your life. The game is the tool you use to build the habit until it becomes second nature. Once you've built the habit, you can keep the game going for extra motivation or move on to other methods of keeping yourself engaged. To put this into action, think of one savings game you can start this week. Make the rules simple, track your progress visibly, on a chart, in an app, or even with a jar where you can watch the money grow. And give yourself a reward when you reach the goal. The reward doesn't have to cost money. It could be a special outing, a day off, or just the satisfaction of seeing how far you've come. The important part is that you're building momentum toward your bigger financial goals in a way that feels enjoyable. When you make saving a game, you stop fighting against your own instincts and start working with them. You tap into your natural competitiveness, your love of progress, and your desire for achievement. And when saving becomes something you look forward to instead of something you dread, You set yourself up for lasting success. The money you save will grow, but so will your confidence, discipline, and sense of control over your future. Thinking long-term while living short-term smart is the balance that turns financial discipline into lasting freedom. Too often, people approach money with an all or nothing mindset. They either sacrifice all present enjoyment for the future or spend everything now without thinking about tomorrow. Neither extreme is sustainable. If you only focus on the future, you risk burning out, resenting your plan, and missing the moments you're working so hard to create. If you only focus on the present, you jeopardize your ability to handle emergencies, seize opportunities, and enjoy life later. The real skill is in learning how to live well now while making decisions that protect and grow your future. I once worked with a woman who dreamed of retiring early. She was disciplined, committed, and extremely focused on her goal. She saved a large portion of her income, invested wisely, and avoided unnecessary expenses. But she also understood the value of living in the moment. She traveled every year, pursued hobbies she loved, and made time for meaningful experiences with her family. The key was that she did all of this within a framework that still supported her long-term plan. Every major spending decision she made was filtered through one question: will this take me off track from my long-term goals? If the answer was no, and it brought real value to her life, she did it. If the answer was yes, she found another way to meet that desire without undermining her future. This balance allowed her to retire at 52 with no regrets. She hadn't put her life on hold, but she also hadn't compromised her bigger vision. Living short-term smart means being intentional with your day-to-day spending. It's not about cutting out everything enjoyable. It's about making sure the enjoyment you choose is worth the trade-off. If you love eating out with friends, you don't have to give it up completely, but you can set a monthly budget for it and stick to it. If travel is important to you, you can plan trips in a way that fits within your savings goals instead of putting them on credit cards. This approach forces you to prioritize and to be creative about finding affordable ways to enjoy life now. Thinking long-term requires you to have a clear picture of where you want to be and when. That vision gives you the framework for all your decisions. If your goal is to be debt-free in 3 years, every major purchase gets weighed against whether it slows down that timeline. If you want to retire by 55, you run the numbers to see how much you need to save each year and adjust your lifestyle accordingly. The clearer your destination, the easier it is to make smart trade-offs in the present because you know exactly what you're working toward. One practical way to live this principle is to divide your money into 3 categories: essentials, future, and fun. Essentials cover your basic needs: housing, food, transportation, insurance. Future includes savings, investments, and debt repayment. Fun is everything else: entertainment, travel, hobbies, luxuries. The rule is simple: fund your essentials, secure your future, and then enjoy your fun money without guilt. When you know your future is being taken care of, you can spend your fun money freely without feeling like you're sabotaging yourself. Another strategy is to plan your fun the same way you plan your savings. Too many people think of enjoyment as spontaneous and unplanned, but intentional enjoyment is more satisfying and often more affordable. When you set aside money for things you love and plan them in advance, you avoid impulse spending on things that don't matter as much. You also give yourself something to look forward to, which makes it easier to resist short-term temptations that don't align with your bigger vision. The danger of not balancing the short and long term is that you end up living in extremes. If you save aggressively but never allow yourself to enjoy anything, you might reach your financial goals feeling like you missed out on life along the way. If you enjoy everything now without a plan, you might find yourself in a future where you can't afford the life you want. The sweet spot is where you're building your future steadily while making your present rich with meaning, connection, and joy. To live this way, you need both discipline and flexibility. Discipline ensures that your long-term goals are always funded first. Flexibility allows you to adapt your short-term choices so you can still enjoy life without derailing your plan. It's not about perfection. It's about alignment. Making sure that both your daily choices and your big picture vision are working together instead of against each other. When you master this balance, something powerful happens. You stop feeling like you have to choose between now and later. You realize you can have both, a fulfilling present and a secure future, by being intentional with your money. You enjoy what you have today, knowing that you're also building the life you want tomorrow. That's the kind of financial freedom worth working for, and it's possible for anyone who is willing to think long-term and live short-term smart. Thanks, everybody.